Hey, welcome back. Today we are going to be taking a look at Lys. What's Lys like? Who are the Lyseni? Also, before we get into that, I just want to say thank you. We're up to 2,000 subscribers, and for my little personal space where I can make something, work on public speaking and that kind of self-confidence, and then also work on the editing for it and try and improve those skills to make something and share it where people enjoy it. It's really nice. I just want to say thank you. You're all appreciated. Anyway, back to Lys. Lys, known as Lys the Lovely, is one of the 9 free cities of Essos. It is a small city clinging to rocks surrounded by stormy seas. As you can see here on the map, the city lies off the coast of the disputed lands, to the southeast of Tyrosh and to the west of Volantis. The author, George R. Martin, usually uses Lyseni as a noun, both singular and plural. Like when Davos is speaking to and about Salador San, he says, "The old Lyseni blinked at him," as a singular, but then in plural, he's saying, "His fleet is gone, save for the Lyseni, and Salador San will flee at the first sight of a Lannister sail." So you can see here it's both singular and plural. He also uses Lysine as an adjective, like the Lysine poisoners or the Lysine captain Salador San, or 2 dozen smaller Lysine galleys. The location and layout. A mercantile city, Lys is built on a fertile island considered a paradise by Valyrian dragon lords. The sunny island is fertile with palm and fruit trees, and the surrounding blue-green waters are filled with fish. Lys is protected by high walls and hired sellswords, a city dominated by wealth rather than by birth. Lys is where trade is considered a profession more honourable than arms. The city is known for its pillow houses and pleasure gardens. Temples and shrines can be found in the streets and waterfronts of the city, including the Temple of Trade, the Temple of Indros, and the Red Temple of R'hllor. The hulls of Lysine galleys are often striped in bright hues. Well, that sounds like quite a place. So what are the Lysini people like? More than anywhere else in the known world, the blood of old Valyria still runs strong in the Lyseni, who are regarded as beautiful. Even the small folk in Lys have the pale skin, silver gold hair, and purple, lilac, and pale blue eyes of the dragon lords of old. The people of Lys are known to curl and perfume their hair. Many of the nobility in Lys have produced infamous beauties, and the Lysine nobility values the purity of their blood above all. Targaryen kings and princes are known to have looked at Lys for wives and paramours, for their blood as well as their beauty. The Lysine tongue is a corruption of High Valyrian. George R. R. Martin has described the Lysine dialect to be a musical, flowing, liquid tongue. Like the Braavosi and Pentoshi, the Lyseni are great lovers of song. Lys is ruled by a conclave of magisters, chosen from among the wealthiest and noblest men of the city, with the first magister as the preeminent figure. The gonfalonier is the elected military leader, and is usually seen as a stepping stone towards becoming a magister. Lys is a port city with no established faith. Pantera, Indros of the Twilight, Bacalon, Sargail, and R'hllor are some of the manifold deities of Lys. The city is home to a love goddess, whose naked figure is on the Lysine coinage. It is unknown if she is the same as the Weeping Lady of Lys, who is one of their goddesses. The Lyseni often fight with Tyrosh and Myr over the disputed lands, though they will not risk the lives of their citizens in this, preferring to hire free companies instead. Lysene pirates often have nests in the stepstones. So what is their economy like? Lys is deeply involved in the slave trade, with slaves outnumbering freeborn Lyseni 3 to 1. Lys is most famous for their bed slaves, and Lyseni are also known to be famously voracious in their search for comely young boys and fair maids for their pillow houses. Lys is also known for the breeding of slaves, mating beauty with beauty, hoping to produce the most lovely courtesans and bed slaves. Lysine coins are oval in shape and have naked women stamped on them, the native love goddess of Lys. Lys makes red and white wine, as well as fine tapestries. The alchemists of Lys are known to make poisons, including the Strangler and the Tears of Lys. Heady sweet perfumes also come from the city. The Lyseni also make fine, long dirks. So there are a bunch of dirks from the sound of it. And what's the history of Lys? Where did it come about? How was it founded? Lys was founded as a colony of the Valyrian freehold on an island in the Summer Sea, near the Broken Arm of Dorne and the Orange Shore of Essos. Founded by wealthy merchants and nobles, Lys was mostly a trading colony. Due to its climate, Lys soon became a resort destination of sorts for the dragon lords of old Valyria. So what happened with the city after the doom of Valyria? Some dragon lords in Lys survived the doom of Valyria, but the citizens killed the dragons and their dragon riders. During the Century of Blood, Volantis took Lys and Myr, and for 2 generations all 3 cities were ruled from within the black walls of Volantis. When Volantis tried to take Tyrosh, however, Pentos came into the war on the Tyroshi side, and Lys and Myr rose in rebellion. The Storm King, Argilac Durrandon, led a host which defeated Volantine's threatening Myr. Lord Aegon Targaryen flew forth from Dragonstone on his dragon Balerion and defeated a Volantine fleet attacking Lys. The Bleeding Years left the disputed lands a waste and freed Lys and Myr from the yoke of Volantis. 7 maidens and 20 other beauties travelled from Lysene pleasure houses for the Golden Wedding to entertain Lord Rogare Baratheon and his entourage. Some tales claim Corianne Wild became the mistress of a Lysene pillow house. Sarah Targaryen served in a Lysene pleasure gardens after fleeing the 7 kingdoms. Prince Daemon Targaryen, brother to King Viserys Targaryen I, had a paramour from Lys, a dancer named Mysaria. The Triarchy and the Daughters' War. After the defeat of Volantis in the Battle of the Borderland in 96 AC, Lys united with Myr and Tyrosh to form the Triarchy, also known as the Kingdom of the Three Daughters. While the Triarchy was initially appreciated for subduing pirates from the Stepstones, Lysene captains became particularly resented for claiming women and comely children. What the actual fuck is even? How can you say that, right? That's not a sentence. Yeah, from passing ships to serve in pillow houses. These victims included Joanna Swan, whose uncle refused to pay her ransom. Joanna rose to become the Black Swan, a powerful courtesan who practically ruled Lys. Stop. House of the Dragon spoilers. If you want to avoid them, skip to this timestamp. The Triarchy fought with Prince Daemon Targaryen during his war for the Stepstones. During the Dance of the Dragons, the High Council of the Triarchy accepted Sir Tyland Lannister's offer of alliance with the Greens. Because most of the Triarchy's losses during the Battle of the Gullet came from Myrish and Tyroshi ships, their admiral, Sharako Lohar of Lys, was accused by widows of having held back his own Lysene ships. Sharako took Prince Viserys Targaryen into his custody after the battle, but the embattled admiral eventually sold his captain to Bambaro Bazan, a Lysene magister. The death of Shakaro led to the collapse of the Triarchy in 131 AC, although the admiral had actually been killed by a rival for the affections of the Black Swan. It was believed that Sharako had been assassinated in Myr. When Lys declared war on Myr, Tyrosh sent Racalio Rindoon to claim the Stepstones. Racalio declared himself King of the Narrow Sea instead. An alliance between Bravos, Lorath, and Pentos also joined the Daughters' War in the Narrow Sea and the disputed lands. Many ancient Lysene houses and noble magisters fell or were killed in the fighting. The war eventually ended with the disputed lands divided between Lys, Myr, and Tyrosh. The Lysene Spring. Of ancient lineage, House Rogare rose to power during the Daughters' War. Lysandro Rogare, patriarch of the family and head of the Rogare Bank, acquired Prince Viserys Targaryen after the death of his captor Bambaro Bazan in 132 AC. Lysandro wed the prince to his beautiful daughter Lara Rogare. While in Sunspear during his return from the Westerlands, Lord Alyn Velaryon was informed by Lysandro's brother Drazenko of Viserys' captivity. Alyn Oakenfist sailed the ship Lady Baela to Lys and negotiated with Lysandro for the prince's release. Viserys, the younger brother of King Aegon Targaryen III, returned to King's Landing with Lara and three of her brothers. Drazenko eventually married Alejandra Martell, Princess of Dorne, and was named Lord of the Stepstones by her. The Rogar's connection with the Iron Throne and Dorne essentially made them princes of Lys, and the Rogar Bank grew more influential than the rival Iron Bank of Bravos. Lysandro named himself First Magister for life. Trade flourished in the cities of the Seven Kingdoms during the so-called Lysene Spring and the velvet tyranny of Lysandro the Magnificent. Despite living in King's Landing, Lara refused to speak the common tongue. She wore Lysene fashions and was surrounded by Lysene ladies, servants, and protectors, including Sandok the Shadow, who was a former pit fighter who stood nearly 7 feet tall. When Lysandro and Drazenko abruptly died one day apart, the Faceless Men were widely held responsible. The magisters and merchant princes of Lys began fighting, with Torio Hen, Silvario, and Perino Penderis, Morio Dagarian, and Mateno Orthis all falling. Lysandro's eldest son, Lysaro, attempted to rule Lys, but he was less effective than his father. When rumours spread that the Rogar Bank was unsound, Lysaro fled with its wealth and 1,000 unsullied. The emptied bank was seized by Lys's magisters, as were the Rogar Palace, manses, wharves, storehouses, the perfumed garden, and most of their galleys. Several Rogars were sold into slavery, and Lysaro was scourged to death in Lys after being caught in Volontheris. Disliked by many Westerosi, the Rogars in the Seven Kingdoms also lost power. Lotho lost his right hand after being found guilty of stealing from the King's Landing branch of the Rogar Bank, but he went on to help establish the Bank of Old Town. Rogario established the Cog Mermaid's Daughter as a sea-borne pillow house. After receiving gold from the Iron Bank, Moredo Rogare hired mercenaries in Tyrosh for an attack on Lys. He eventually buried the remains of Lysaro in the family crypt. Lara gave birth to Prince Aemon and Princess Nerys Targaryen in Westeros, but eventually returned to her native Lys. So in recent history, this is before the events of A Song of Ice and Fire, A Game of Thrones Book 1, King Aegon Targaryen IV, half Lysene through his mother Lara, had a Lysene mistress towards the end of his reign, Serene of Lys, the last daughter of an ancient but impoverished noble family of Valyrian blood. Serene bore the king one child, the famously beautiful Shiara Seastar, whom Aegon IV legitimized on his deathbed as one of his great bastards. Stop. Spoilers for A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. If you don't want to know them, go to this timestamp. In 209 AC, Prince Aerion Targaryen was temporarily exiled to Lys, following his role in the tourney at Ashford Meadow, which indirectly resulted in the death of his uncle, Prince Baelor Breakspear. Also known as Aerion Brightflame, he stayed in Lys for a few years, and it is possible that he fathered some children while staying there. Lord Tywin Lannister went to Lys during the reign of Aerys Targaryen II. Prince Oberyn Martell was sent to Lys after being suspected of using poison on Lord Edgar Ironwood, but no one dared call it exile. Actually, on the subject of exile, John Connington supposedly drank himself to death in Lys after being driven from the Golden Company in disgrace for stealing from their war chest. When Daenerys Targaryen was a young girl, she and her brother Viserys spent some time in Lys when they were wandering from place to place. And background to exiles, Ser Jorah Mormont fled in exile to Lys with his wife Lynesse Hightower, after which he began to sell his sword to make coin. By the time Jorah returned to Lys after fighting the Braavosi on the Rhoyne, his wife had taken Triarchy Mormont as a lover. She now rules his household as his concubine. His Dar Zolorak has visited Lys. Varys, Master of Whisperers for King Robert Baratheon and Aerys Targaryen II, originates from Lys, and according to Grand Maester Pycelle, Varys was born a slave there. Peter Baelish, as King Robert Baratheon's Master of Coin, trades for Lysene lace. And Asha Greyjoy lost her virginity when she was 16 to a beautiful blonde Lysene sailor. Ooh. And in recent events, so from A Game of Thrones, one of the servants that Magister Illyrio gifts Daenerys Targaryen is Doria, who is from a Lysene pillow house. Daenerys Targaryen also smells sweet perfumes from Lys while at the western market of Vaes Dothrak. In A Clash of Kings, King Stannis Baratheon brings sellswords from Lys and Myr to Dragonstone. Sir Davos Seaworth recalls that it was he who journeyed to Lys in order to recruit Salador San's cells to Stannis' cause. Salador, the self-styled Prince of the Narrow Sea, commands the Valyrian and 24 smaller Lysene galleys. In A Storm of Swords, a pale Lyseni, one of the brave companions, is killed by Nymeria's wolf pack. Corraine Sathmantes, captain of Shayala's dance, rescues Davos from Blackwater Bay. Davos later smuggles Edric Storm from Dragonstone aboard a Lysene galley. Tyrosh is on the verge of going to war with Lys. Sir Osmond Kettleblack claims to have fought with the gallant men in the disputed lands, serving Lys and then Tyrosh. To prove the discipline of the Unsullied to Daenerys, Krasnis Monaklos mutilates a Lysene slave in Astapor. In A Feast for Crows, where I feel like they start to get mentioned a little bit more, Taina Merryweather tells Cersei Lannister that she has friends in Lys. In Braavos, Arya Stark enjoys the fair-haired Lyseni who tries to strike hard bargains. Lys and Tyrosh are now on the verge of war with Myr. Myr is then said to be supportive of Tyrosh against Lys, but the Golden Company breaks its contract with Myr before war begins. It is rumoured that the Archon of Tyrosh has offered terms to Lys in an effort to end the trade war. Euron Greyjoy gives a dusky woman to his brother Victarion, telling the Lord Captain of the Iron Fleet that he had taken her from a slaving ship sailing for Lys. Sir Humphrey Hightower travels to Lys to recruit cells, hoping for assistance from his sister Lynesse against the Ironborn attacks against the Reach. And in A Dance with Dragons, Edric Storm is in hiding in Lys with his guardian and protectors. Quentyn Martell's party stops in Lys during their voyage to Meereen, and the Golden Company takes on water in Lys before continuing to the Stormlands. Young Griff is fluent in the low dialect of Lys, and Arya also attempts to learn the city's dialect. The Elephant and the Goodheart capture free folk slaves at Hardhome, but the Lysene pirate ships are damaged by storms. While the Goodheart is impounded in Braavos, because they're well against slaves, good on them, the Elephant may have returned to Lys. Victarion sends the slowest and heaviest ships of the Iron Fleet to Lys to sell slaves from the Shield Islands. Magister Illyrio sends a bedwarmer trained in Lys to serve Tyrion Lannister while he is staying in Pentos, and Daenerys sees a youthful Lyseni killed in Daznak's pit. Lys sounds like a nice place in itself, but not to exist. Let me know what you think. Thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed. Links for socials will be in the description below. Have a good whatever. Cheerio.